Let's do a quick retrospective on some lessons learned from writing failures. The reason that I do this is because it helps to back at where we've made our mistakes so we don't make them again. One of the things that is a consistent theme that I keep running into personally is the marketing piece for the writing, because I'm really good at the writing, I'm really good at the editing, and then the marketing, we fall into that joke. Periodically, typically on like once a quarter and at the end of the year, I'll go back and I'll review what's going on, check the known mistakes, think about the newer mistakes and areas we could improve, see if we can make sure that the machine stays calibrated as we're moving forward and doing what we think needs doing. In a different area of our life, say that we're, instead of our writing, say that we're looking at our website stuff and we see the slight drop off in SEO related stuff and we see the rise of the AI piece. So how do we address those changing market conditions? And basically the perspective on that I like to keep is like looking at the weather and making your plans. So if the world is changing around you, you got to be conscious of that. We can't still be going to the beach in the middle of a hurricane or thunderstorm. It's just not going to work. You don't want to be playing golf in the middle of a lightning storm, that kind of thing. If your environment starts off with blue sky conditions and then suddenly those big dark storm clouds start rolling in, we got to adjust our plans. That's what I do periodically. This is a little bit out of order because when I made the list of my weekly topics, it was during one of these quarterly review periods, so I put this on, and now I'm a little bit out of cycle. It's end of October, so not quite end of a quarter, but I've done this relatively recently. So these are some of the mistakes that I think that I've made, areas I can improve, just going back and doing that, recalibrating this portion of the life. I do this for all the pieces and parts of my life, but it's something that I like to focus on as far as lessons learned from writing failures for today. One of the things that needs to be clear is consistency. I mean that on a physical platform method, because if we are inconsistent in our projects, what I have often found happens is I end up wasting, not because the story, the process, the systems themselves, but because the lack of consistency across devices. If I go desktop to laptop, laptop to phone, whatever the shift in the device is, sometimes by failing to make sure that those devices are updated across each other, especially in the past before like the cloud stuff, I would lose document versions. I might spend 3 days working on my laptop and then I come back and not really thinking, I just open up the latest version I was doing on the desktop and I'm like, where the hell did all my work go? And I spend 30 minutes spinning my wheels over trying to figure out where that went. And then it's like light bulb goes on and you're like, oh yeah, I was working on the laptop, I wasn't working on this machine. So kind of silly, just something to keep in mind. You have to be conscious of that kind of stuff. And related to that, one of the things that's really helped me keep the consistency and the workflow moving along has also saved my bacon with Amazon as a publisher. Because years ago when my dad died, we had several of my books with family. And in the process of moving them back, I was changing the name on the account. So as I was transferring the books, I put them into my personal account and I got a ban notice from Amazon. That was not a fun experience. But what wound up happening was I ended up cleaning up the issue because I had the sequential progress notes on all of my work. So effectively what happened was my hard drive became a progress log. So I had all the different prior versions of all of my work so I could transfer things correctly. Once my account was verified that, hey, this person's got this plagiarized stuff on their account, we'll ban them. This is the original account. Oh, we need to transfer it, not ban. That was a very stressful conversation for about 3 days because as soon as I finished it with one person, the next person decided to come in and stick their foot in the pie and make a mess, and I had to repeat the process. And I got to forward the resolution email to the next person who thought that they knew what they were doing. By saving my work with a sequential 4-digit year, the month, and then the day, what happens is you get a sequential log of all your work from top to bottom. Your oldest work starts at the top and then you work down to the bottom. So most recent work, 2025, October, day, and that rotates through as we're going through and we're building out our process. Something else, the next item that I consistently have to keep in mind and consider is the ROI on what we're doing. If we are not producing a return on our investment, why are we doing it? We look at our 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you spend wasted, and that 80% of time chunk is what ends up making you 20% of your money. So you spend 80% of your life to make 20% of your money. You can really go upside down if you're not paying attention to that kind of stuff. And because it is so fun and so enjoyable for me to do the creation process, I can get lost in losing sight of the ROI on a project. So, for example, if you spend 2 years working on your project and you're doing 8 hours a day, every day, to make your 150,000 word masterpiece, by the time you finish that little masterpiece and you've spent 2 years doing it, how much did you give up in the form of not going to work? If you spend 2 years where you're making okay money, $35,000 in a year, that's $70,000 over 2 years, that you should have gotten paid for the time that you were working on your book. If your book does not yield $70,000 in its lifetime, you're upside down on the task. We have to keep in mind the ROI. If we're not turning our processes around, the return on our time is not where it should be. But we need to keep that in mind when we're working. We don't get to fool ourselves. This is the magnus opus that we're going to be bumping the number 1, number 2 bestsellers off, because if there's 1.9 million books getting published every year for the last 10 years, that's 20 million books floating around out there, and there's only so many top hundreds. So even if you've got 50 different categories that have top hundreds, that's 5,000 books out of 20 million, and that top list does not change very frequently. Another error that I made early on and caused a lot of problems later on was that when I first published my work, I skipped producing an email list. I just published the book, tossed it out there. It got a bunch of sales. I had 2 bestsellers in the top 20 of science fiction, which is a big category. Those 2 bestsellers never collected a single email because I didn't plan ahead and I didn't set that up ahead of time. I've done jobs, I've done works, I've done all sorts of stuff since. Here we are later. Now I'm struggling to reconnect and communicate with my audience. I had a beautiful audience selling thousands of books a month, and they fell off because I wasn't talking to the email piece. If you don't have your email piece, you don't have a business. And that was a hard, harsh lesson for me. Going forward, that's extremely important. Everything I've put together now has a contact to it. It has a check out more of our work to it. That's important because now all the pieces and parts are connected, related, tied back and forth, and that's a good thing for remedying earlier failures. Finally, I think I've touched this as a theme for everything, but marketing. Marketing is like the third leg of the stool. If we fail to do our marketing, all of our writing, all of our editing means nothing, because if nobody reads it, it doesn't do anything. I keep saying this, but Robert Kiyosaki said to a reporter, "You might write better than I do, but it's not a best writing book, it's a best selling book." When Robert Kiyosaki was going around and doing all of his shows and doing the book tours and getting his Rich Dad Poor Dad out there, he did a fantastic job of marketing, putting together this constellation of media that supported his sale. Now, granted, that was 25 years ago when that book came out, but what you'll find is that those actions are still relevant. If we choose not to do the marketing piece, we're, again, that stool with 3 legs now has 2. You've broken off one of the legs of your stool. You might be able to get it to work, but chances are strong you're going to fall and bust your head. When I say marketing, I don't mean just like social media slop, where we're putting out our post on whatever and 50 people see it. We're not going to make our $1 million with 50 people seeing our one post about our newest project. By doing marketing for our work, actually building the email system and putting in place our business functions and business marketing pieces. And these are the pieces that authors typically hate. Keeping that in mind, I'm making a bunch of adjustments. So the consistency, saving your work daily, that's a habit. Making sure that we're working an ROI on everything, every piece of work we do, building out the email list and doing the marketing infrastructure behind our work. Those 5 pieces are where I'm focusing going forward. It's where I have been focusing and where I foresee us doing more work in the future. As far as the marketing piece, one of the things I'll probably end up doing is press releases in the near future, because there is the physical marketing, the physical ads and stuff. As those get moving along, we'll start seeing some activity there. But putting in the press releases and doing those kinds of things like that and the actual legitimate work, that'll help out a lot. Those are the lessons learned from writing failures. I've got a lot of the other stuff going on that I've been forced to learn and evaluate over the last couple of years. It's not just writing pieces. This is a small piece of a bunch of other stuff that I've done, my own self-imposed improvement processes. As far as lessons learned from writing failures, it's the making sure I'm consistent across devices so I don't get versions lost, making sure that I'm saving based upon daily, because that'll save a lot of headaches. We can consolidate our work, make sure we've got good multiple files and saving. Tracking our ROI on projects. We don't want to expend 1,000 hours worth of a project that's never going to sell, never going to yield anything for us. Making sure that I put the email list into progress, and then doing the full-on marketing like I would for a normal business. I think those 5 are the most critical pieces as far as the writing process is concerned. You have a great day, and I hope to speak to you again soon.